Now let's talk about questions like this, where you circled it, and the second time you went through it, and you eliminated the rest, but you didn't change your question. So it turns out that you're right. Okay, the right answer choice does say C. Okay, well that's great. So what do you take out of it? Do you see? When I asked you to do step 2, I was asking you to solidify, to make concrete all of your reasons. Now that you've made concrete all of your reasons, you know why you chose it. You know why from these premises falls out this answer choice, or why this answer choice does the thing the question stem asks you to do to the argument above. Okay, you actually know why. So then you can reinforce your reasoning for the right answer choice. Okay, the reasoning you use to get at answer choice C, it gets reinforced. This is different than if you didn't do step 2, where you just kind of half-assed guessed C, wishy-washy reason for thinking C. Then what in the world does it prove that you're right? What is it reinforcing? Nothing. You're just reinforcing this amorphous notion, this amorphous train of thought, this half-guess, half-thinking reason for getting answer choice C. So what are you really reinforcing? It's not even clear what you're reinforcing. Whereas if you're forced to do step 2, now you know exactly, precisely, in detail why you chose C, and it's reinforced. See, when you get it right, you have to say to yourself, that way of thinking about C, great, it's right. And at the same time, it reinforces your reasoning for why all of the others are incorrect. You see, it reinforces, you have to do this. You have to let the right answer choice tell you, boost your confidence, reinforce that way of thinking. Now, okay, yes, I concede this is not 100% true, because even though let's say the right way to think about C was, this like roundabout way, okay? Where you turn left and then you turn right. This is actually the right way you got to C. You got to C by turning right and turning left. You ended up at the same place. You see, you ended up at the same place. You ended up at C. But it turns out that your way of thinking about it was actually completely wrong. How would you know between this case and the previous case? Well, look, the answer is you don't. But you have to do this anyway. Because you're not doing this one time. You're doing this, you're working on hundreds of LR questions. The odds of that happening, the odds of you getting the right answer choice, and having been forced to think about it for 20 minutes and getting the right answer choice, the chances of that happening and you actually having arrived at the right answer choice for wrong reasons, that is greatly, greatly diminished, almost to an insignificant level if you're doing this hundreds of times over, if you're doing hundreds of LR questions. Yeah, sometimes you get to the right answer choice even after thinking about it for the wrong reason. And yeah, of course, this method is not going to distinguish that, but those cases are so rare that it's just don't even worry about it. Yes, yeah, technically, I concede there is room for error, but this is the best method you have, and honestly, that the room for error is practically insignificant. And if you did not understand what I was just saying there, don't worry, don't pay attention. It's not a big deal. And what if you are wrong? What if you check it and it turns out you're wrong? Because that's the other alternative. You're wrong. When you're wrong, you immediately shatter your reasoning twice, because you need to shatter it for this answer choice because you thought you had the right reasoning for why C is correct. And you need to shatter it again because clearly some other answer choice is right. Let's just say here the correct answer choice actually was answer choice E. This was actually the correct answer choice. Okay? So you have to shatter your method of reasoning here for C. How did you get to C as being right? Whatever you thought was the reason why these two premises and conclusion, whatever, supported C, shatter it because you were clearly wrong. And whatever reasoning you thought that these premises, conclusion, whatever in the question stem made E wrong, you shatter that method of reasoning too, because clearly E turned out to be the right answer. But do you see how useful that is? You actually have something to shatter. Why? Because you spent time on step 2 to create, to articulate, to solidify, to make concrete your reasoning for both C and E. And consequently, as a result, now that you have the right answer choice, it's doing something for you. Empirically, it's doing something for you. It's telling you this method of reasoning you thought was right is incorrect, so shatter it. This method of reasoning you thought was, the answer choice you thought was wrong turned out to be right, so also shatter the way you were thinking there. And do you see the difference there? Do you see the difference about how if you didn't do this, the answer choice wouldn't be nearly as much helpful as it is if you did actually spend the time to do this. And this is great too, because this really is a very empirical, very scientific approach to this, because you're not having, yeah, you have some preconceived theories, hypotheses about what makes the answer choice right and what makes the answer choice wrong. And how do you know if you're correct? How do you know if your hypothesis, if your theory for how to do the LSAT is right or wrong? You let the LSAT tell you. You let the empirical evidence show you whether your theories and hypotheses are correct. And I mean, I can't think of another way. I mean, you can go to like a quote-unquote LSAT guru, and the LSAT guru will tell you, no, this is how the LSAT is done. Well, on what authority? On what basis? It has to be based in fact. It has to be based in evidence. And what is your evidence? What is your empirical evidence? It's got to be the LSAT questions. It's got to be the correct answer choices. That's the empirical world that your theory is supposed to try to explain. Do you see? So if it's wrong, immediately shatter the way you were thinking about C and shatter the way you were thinking about E. And then now you have a lot to work with because you're wrong. Now you have to start over. Go back to step 2. And of course you can't do it as well because you already know E is correct. So now what you're going to force to do is you're going to be forced to like sort of backwards rationalize why E is right. And you see, at this point, it really does, you are doing the same thing that all the test takers that I said aren't, the ones that I said are not studying for the LR in the right method is doing. Because now once you find out this is right, you're going to create a reason why E is right. But that's still good because you see, you went through that whole process where you had something to, at least you shatter 2 ways of reasoning.